We're going to start by sitting in Sukhasana. So you might need a flat block or two and possibly a blanket. So we're going to come and sit in this cross-legged position. It's nice and compact. We've got knees and ankles in line with each other. We've got a little bit of space here behind the calves. And then you draw your buttock flesh out and back behind you, okay? And then if that leaves you feeling a little bit slumped or the shins lifted, you raise up your seat. So you go a little higher with your blocks, okay? And you take a little shin support with a blanket if you need to. And then we're just going to simply bring our hands onto our knees or thighs. So let's have a little look at the shoulders and the elbows. And we'll draw the elbows back so they rest beneath the shoulders. And then we'll close our eyes. And we'll take some slow, deep breaths. So that's all we're focusing on here and now, is simply the breath. And then as we feel into the breath, and it might be that you feel inspired to take some deeper breaths to slow the breath down, we are ultimately looking towards bringing the breath to its own natural rhythm, but sometimes we kind of have to sort of harness the breath first. We have to connect to the breath. So that's where we often bring in some more deliberate, deeper breaths. But then when we find the breath and the breath feels at ease, we just let it breathe by itself. So there's a relationship of trust in the breath. And sometimes this gets lost in yoga because, it can be a little bit of a mode for yoga teachers to tell us when to inhale and when to exhale quite frequently. And that can be useful at certain times, but most of the time we don't need that instruction because our body knows how to breathe. It knows how to breathe appropriately to the situation. Okay, now we've tuned into the breath. We can start to feel into a little elevation through the midline of the body. So we might be taking maybe even a little sway from side to side, moving towards one buttock and the other, and we can feel how just this little gentle swaying motion, it sort of gathers up any dissipated energy and kind of knocks it back into the center or guides it back into the center. And it's from there that we rise. So we're tuning into this internal lift in the body and an external softening. So the shoulders are releasing, the neck feels long. We can relax through our facial muscles. Let the eyes relax, the eye sockets relax, the temples, the cheeks and sinuses. And then notice your breath again, how it might have changed from a few moments ago. As we start to drop into this quiet, meditative awareness. It may be that your body has come to be quite still, or there might still be little movements in it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter whether we are moving or we are still. We utilize both movement and stillness within yoga because they are sort of part of the same thing. They are not separate. Movement arises from stillness and it falls back into stillness. But what we're looking for is this quality of awareness, this quality of arrival in our experience. Okay, keeping a little tone in the belly, a little lift up in the chest. let's just take the left hand to the floor so the fingertips can just make contact with the floor. So we extend that arm out wherever it reaches to. If you are raised up on blocks and your hand is quite close in towards you, you can even use a block for your hand, but we are going to lean in that direction, so it's okay. We can walk our hand out as we lean. So let's raise the other arm up. And then we'll walk the fingertips out. We'll keep toning the belly. And what I want you to think of here is, rather than just simply folding over, I want you to feel that rising up and sort of curving over in the body. So it's coming out of a lift. We lift up out of the pelvis. We lift through the waist. And we breathe and we enjoy it. I'm sure we have come to this practice because, on some level at least, we enjoy yoga. So let's choose the path of bhoga, of enjoyment in our practice. Because it's not so much about what we do or the conditions that we create when we are fortunate to be in an environment that is safe and easy, but it's about our attitude to that. We can make a pleasant situation unpleasant with the mind and vice versa. So even if we meet sensations in the body, and you can be moving here, of course, you can be moving, feeling into the sensations. Even if we meet sensations that we might not immediately label as pleasant, they might be challenging. We can look beneath the challenge and find the enjoyment, even the joy in actually feeling alive in the body. Having this vehicle that allows us awareness, and that's one of the things we get from something that's challenging. We often get a heightened awareness in that experience. Okay, well done. Now let's bring ourselves back up to the center. We'll take a breath and we'll release the shoulders down. We'll feel this light elevation of the chest again, but it's not just the chest, it's the elevation of the central line of the body, the central energetic channel, Sushumna, gracious channel. And we feel as the outer body, the limbs settle. And then when you're ready, take your other hand over to the other side and we'll raise the other arm up. We'll keep toning the belly, we'll lift up. And again, we can walk the hand over, but rather than just simply sort of hinging the body over, we lift and rise up out of the pelvis. And then we create this little curving over, this arcing over. Again, you are welcome to feel into any movement, but that movement supports the process of release. The movement or any movement or stillness supports the goal of integration, absorption. So whatever we're doing, and we can be enjoying what we're doing, I emphasize that again, but we are doing it with the purpose of integrating ourselves, with the purpose of just dropping ourselves fully into presence within the whole of our experience. Find the breath again. So even when we have those moments in yoga and we are not constantly aware of our breath, of course, but it comes in and out of our consciousness, our field of awareness. But even when we're not fully turning our attention towards the breath, we can feel that it's there as the sort of substratum of support. Okay, let's come back up. Let's feel into a little bit of movement. So that feels like a nice, good stretch early in the morning. So have a little roll out, have a little shimmy out, whatever you need. Feel into the body. And then we're going to change the cross of our legs. So let's bring the opposite leg in front. So you can give the legs a little bit of movement before we do that. So then when we change the cross of our legs, again, we adjust the body as we did before, adjusting the buttock flesh. So we draw it back behind us. So that action is allowing that tilt of the pelvis, the anterior tilt. We take any supports, and you might find that you need a different support here. And then we bring our hands back onto the knees. We let the elbows drop beneath the shoulders. The collarbones are broad. The belly is toned. Okay. And this time we're going to raise our arms up above our head. So let's take a big wide circle. And then we can lift up so we can keep the arms around about shoulder width apart. And again, we'll feel into a little bit of movement in the body. Have a little wiggle across the hips, through the torso, and keep that tone in the belly that supports the body in this action, but you can move the body in any way. So I want to encourage you to just play into a little bit of movement. So we might play with a little side flexion as we just did. We might even play with a little forwards and backwards flexion through the spine. But again, we're looking to keep some length in the body. You may even play with a little turn in this. Okay, go easy with your body. So when I say go easy, I don't mean just, sort of flop around and do nothing, but I mean feel into your body with ease. We can feel into something that's strong, but we can do that with ease. So there's something about the quality of strength that we bring to our yoga. It is like that, the quiet strength that is applied here. It's not the sort of overt, in your face, I'm being strong. But it is that quiet, supportive strength that comes from beneath. Okay, let's bring our arms down. Let's release, take a breath, feel the release traveling down through the arms. Feel into the breath again. Breathe into the hips if you need to. And then we're going to release the cross of the legs. So let's take the legs out in front of us, give them a little bit of movement, have a little shake out, maybe a little pat down, a little rub down, and we're going to bring ourselves up to standing. So come on up when you're ready, and we're going to bring the feet in towards each other. So let's bring the feet together. So when I say together, it means that they are very close. For some people, the feet touch. For most people, there's a little gap, and perhaps maybe a little bit more of a gap between the heels than there is between the toes because of the shape of the feet, because we're wider at the toe end of the foot than the heel, of course. So we spread the toes. And then we rise up through the midline of the body, and we can feel into any movement. So let's just have a little bounce out, a little shimmy out, a little shake out of the shoulders, and we'll press into the feet and re-extend the legs and draw up. So the same principles that we brought to our Sukhasana, our previous posture, we're bringing to Tadasana. So here in this posture, there is this rising up through the center, and we can support that rising up from the feet. So there can be a little downwards pressure that we create, and you'll feel how that engages the thighs, tones the quadriceps, and then it can lift into the midline. Shoulders release. Now let's take our arms up in a wide circle again. We're going to lift up, we're going to extend, we're going to breathe. We can feel into a little bit of movement like we did in our seated posture, playing around with this, and we're going to orientate ourselves back to the center with the arms lifted. We're going to breathe into this, and we're going to bend our knees, ankles and hips. So I'll turn to the side for your side view of that. So we're going to come into Utkatasana here, and we can play with a little bit of movement in our Utkatasana. So We can move around, make it sustainable. Okay, so sometimes a little bouncing is all we need to not over grip through the back muscles. So we are going to take this down lower. Now, if you have dodgy knees, you can stay up as high as you need to go. But those of you who are able to fully flex the knees, we're going to come down, we're going to keep going, the heels can lift, the knees can separate, and we'll just come down to bring our fingertips to the floor, reach the chest forwards, breathe, and then there may be a little hinging further down, so we want this release from the hips. Taking some deep breaths, but of course you could be around about here. You're welcome to use blocks underneath the hands if you're a little higher up. So we might fold in. So this is just a brief visit down. And then we're going to draw the thighs back in towards each other. We're going to raise ourselves back up to our Utkatasana. We're going to breathe. And then we're going to push through the feet and come all the way up again and take the arms down in a wide circle. Release the arms, find the breath and give to this. It's a complete offering. Okay, we're going to, let's have a brick block if you have one, but a flat block will do. We're going to pop it to the right side of our mat, which we may need to use that block. We're going to come into the wonderful Ardha Chandrasana half moon pose. So often we come into this from a triangle pose, but we're going to pretty much come straight into it. So we're going to start a little distance from our block and we're going to turn our right foot out like this, so we can have our left foot just positioned a little bit behind it, so like a little mini Trikonasana stride here, okay, and we've got this block further ahead, so it's just ready for us. So we're just going to literally tip over this front leg. So if we bend that front knee, that will just give us the momentum to move in that direction towards our block. Let's keep a little tone in the belly, let's lift into the chest. So bend that front knee, reach down to your block and then just raise your leg up. It's a nice and simple entry into it. You are welcome to lower the block, and we can keep our hand either on our hip or thigh, or if you feel you've got the movement to raise that arm up and the chest is nice and open, so we're not collapsing in towards the floor and trying to raise our arm up from here. It should be that the arm can come up and be perpendicular to the floor. And we breathe. So let's reach into the back foot. Let's reach through the arms. If you've got that arm resting, you can still walk the fingertips down the leg to bring a little bit more extension to the neck. Okay. Well done. Now let's bring the hand down onto the hip. Hopefully we've got enough mat length to do this now. So we're going to bend that standing knee and we're going to take the toes down into a much wider angle this time and then step the foot back, and we're going to come into a Parsvakonasana. Now it's not quite long enough on my mat here, but we can just walk that front foot out so we're straight over into our Parsvakonasana. Okay, let's take that top arm up and over. Let's create that straightish line between the fingertips and the back foot. So we're resting our forearm on this front thigh. This front thigh is coming towards a right angle. So because we come straight into it, often we do a little bit of warming up through the hips. So we can play with that warming up while we're in the pose if we need to. And what we can feel in this is there is a teasing out of the inner thigh and groin as we lift and lower into it, but also we can tease out this extension through the side of the body. Feel into the breath, belly is toned. Okay, Wonderful. Let's just take one more little reach from the foot to the fingertips, back foot to the fingertips. And then we'll come up. Let's take the arm back, hand onto the thigh, push into the thigh, inhale and come up. Well done. Let's turn the feet to the front. Let's step the feet back in together and we can have a little shake out, a little shimmy out. We'll come and stand back in our Tadasana and we'll find the breath here. We'll release the shoulders. Let the breath be free. So sometimes that takes a little while to really find that freedom in the breath. But trust that it will come. Okay. Let's pop our block to the other side, and again we can take it as far out as we can, so we're more likely to have a little bit more length behind us this time, even taking your block off your mat. But we're actually going to come through that Utkatasana position again first before we do side two, so into our Malasana position. So this is to come with the feet together, raise your arms up, extend and lift and tone the belly and breathe. And then again, a little hinge from the ankles, knees and hips without sticking the bum out too much or tucking the tail, so we keep the natural curvature of the lumbar. We can play around with any movement here that helps us to sustain the posture. And then once again, if you're happy with flexing the knees further, we're going to come down, we're going to take the knees apart, we're going to bring the fingertips to the floor. We're going to lift up through the chest, keep the belly toned, knees apart, and then it might be that we can fold ourselves forwards into this a little more, but you can stay lifted through the chest if you need to. You can use props if you need to. So if you need to be a little bit higher, we can be a little bit higher, that's fine. Okay, let's bring it back up. So raise your chest, draw your thighs in towards each other. We can take our arms back temporarily and then we can push through the feet and draw the arms forward to keep the knees bent. A brief visit into Utkatasana again, and then we'll push through the feet and we'll inhale and come up and exhale. Release the arms down and then let the breath find itself. And let the breath find you. Okay. Same again to the other side. So we're just going to take this little position of turning the left foot out, completely having the right foot a little bit behind that foot so we're comfortable in the knee. And then we can bend the knee off that front leg. We're going to lift up through the body. We're going to tip ourselves over to reach our block, and the back leg can raise. So we take ourselves down. The break is positioned just a little way behind the little toe. So we can come into alignment with the foot, but that is a bit more tricky for balance for most people. So going slightly behind the foot works for balance. And then again, this top arm can walk down the leg. We open the chest, we reach into the foot. We can raise the arm up. And we let the breath flow. And if you lose your balance, you enjoy losing your balance. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. A human thing to do. Okay. So again, we're going to bring that top arm down. We're going to bend this front knee. We're going to look down our mat. We can just touch the mat with our toes so we find our balance, and then we can take a big, generous step back and transfer our forearm to the thigh. If you need to walk that front foot a little further forwards, you can walk that front foot a little further forwards. So we come into our Parsvakonasana position. And then again, we'll take that top arm up and over. If it feels clunky around the shoulder, bringing the arm forwards helps you to move around the shoulder joint. And then again, we can just play with this little bit of movement. That's it, breathing through it. So feel how this movement here not only lengthens out through the inner thigh and groin, but it's lengthening out through the side of the body too. We're really reaching into that. The belly is toned. The breath is free. Okay, we're going to release from this by coming down. So let's bring that top arm down. Let the body rotate towards the floor. Bring the hand down to the floor. Bring the other hand down to the floor. Rotate on the ball of the back foot and then step back and reach into downward facing dog. So our hands are shoulder width apart. Our feet are around about hip width apart. Just check the alignment on your mat. Hands an equal distance from the outer edges of your mat. Feet an equal distance from the outer edges of your mat. And then feel through it. Play into it. Breathe into it. A little sway across the hips can be invaluable for sharing the action of extension through the hamstrings across the hamstrings. So it's not all loaded into one area of the hamstrings. We move it across them. Bending the knees can allow a little release and re-extension through the back of the thighs. Lifting the heels can allow a deeper turn of the pelvis, which we would like. And of course, you can play in any way that engages you. But feel where that movement arises from. There is an energy within that movement that is coming from stillness, a profound stillness that is the potentiality for, all energy, all creativity. And we drop back into that ultimately. Okay, let's come down. Bring your knees to the floor. Take a breath here for a moment. Let the soles of the feet release. Let the calves release. Let the breath soften. Feel as the back muscles start to release, and again, let's feel into a little bit of movement. If you find that you need to give your wrists a rest from here, so after downward facing dog, it can feel strong on the wrists, staying here for a while, you are welcome to come down onto your forearms and turn your palms up. So that will give your wrists a little bit of space. So do that if you feel you need to or want to. And then have a little play around, a little movement through the hips, and watch that movement ripple up through the body. We'll take the knees apart when you're ready. And we'll draw ourselves back into a child pose, but let's sort of have a little wiggle back into our child pose here. So let's feel how this movement, moving in a non-linear sort of way, so playing around, can help us to release on a more subtle level. And then we come down and we might bring our head to the floor. We might bring our head to support. We might take support between buttocks and heels. And we can either keep our arms forwards, or we can take our arms back and rest the hands next to the feet. And we'll take some deep breaths into the hip joints. And we can breathe there. And perhaps we can even imagine, some of you have probably experienced this, a little adjustment if someone were able to just press down on the top of our thighs, what that would do for the lower back. How it might bring a little bit of space and length and release to the lower back. So even imagining this can have a similar effect. It can tune us into that spaciousness that we're looking for. Okay, let's raise the head up. Let's walk the hands in a little, and then we'll lean the body forward so we come back to our hands and knees. And let's just give the legs a little stretch out one by one. So that strong flexion of the hips that we get in child pose makes us want to extend out the hips again. So this means reaching the leg back and bringing length there to the top of the front of the thigh. So we'll come on this, in this position on our hands and knees. We can have our hands shoulder width apart. We'll have our knees in towards each other, and then we're going to play with a little movement which is adaptations of the tiger pose, Vyagrasana. So we're going to let's bring our left knee forwards first of all, and we're going to tuck in towards that knee. So there's a little sort of rounding of the back here. Okay, it's hovering off the floor. Then we're going to reach that leg back. We're going to lift the chest, lift the leg. So then we create a little back bend here. We lift up into the foot and we breathe. Now let's move through that 2 more times with this leg. Drawing the knee forwards, tucking in, breathing through it. So again, let there be this deep trust in the breath. Maybe you've reorientated yourself to it for a moment and recognized how, yes, it's been there all along. It is this substratum of support. Okay, so we should be coming to our last raising of the leg and the head here. That's it, breathing. And then bringing the knee down. Feeling into any movement, again, feeling into the breath. Maybe this is a point where we reconnect, regather our breath. Again, if you need to release the hands, you can just temporarily just flip the wrists over or come down onto the forearms. And we're going to do the same with the other leg. So I didn't say on the first side because I've got the luxury of 2 yoga mats and a carpet beneath me. So it's nice and padded for me, but do pad out the knees if you need to. So let's bring the right knee forwards this time and tuck in. That's it. Breathe into it. Take the leg back. Raise the chest. Raise the head. Breathe with ease. And we're moving through this once again. Just 3 times with this leg. Breath is steady. And with this slow movement of the body and this steadiness of the breath, we can feel how that actually impacts the mind. It impacts the brain. Our brainwave frequency slows down because it becomes entrained by the body and the breath. Okay, we can have a little wiggle, a little shake out, a deeper breath, whatever you need here. We're going to walk our hands back in towards us so we can come into Vajrasana. Take support if you need to between buttocks and heels, beneath the ankles. Just a brief sit here. And in this brief sit, let yourself be immersed in whatever this happens to be. So by that I mean the whole. I don't mean let's get immersed in the mind. But let's feel the breath, let's feel the body, let's feel the little nuances of sensation and movement and flows of energy in the body. Let's feel into the heart center. Let's feel into our current energetic state. And then hopefully the mind again, it sort of drops into this field of wholeness. It's not dropping into its own kind of myopic view of thought patterns. But it's expanding into a bigger experience of being. Okay, we're going to release from this now. We're going to come into another kneeling position. Just briefly, we're going to sit on a block. So this is Bharadvajasana. I'm going to show you the rear view. You sit on a block. You're going to have the shin of one foot, rest of one leg resting in the arch of the other foot. So here in this position, I've got my right shin resting in the arch of my left foot. So the left toe is pointing that way, the right toes are pointing behind. So let's do that. Let's bring our legs over towards the right side. So sorry if you've already popped your legs to the other side. It doesn't actually ultimately matter. You can move to either side. So again, just let this, what is the sort of top leg, it rests in the arch of the bottom foot. So we bring our hands to that top leg on the side where the feet are. We rest. We breathe. You may need to adjust the buttock flesh. Belly toned, chest lifted. Breath flowing. Now I'd really like to keep you here and go through this really slowly, but we don't have the time in this particular class to do that. So we're going to move pretty much straight into it. You might need a brick behind you. So we'll inhale and lift up, and we'll exhale and we'll bring that hand behind us. So it should be your left hand if you're going in the same direction, or the mirrored direction to me comes behind you. And we lift and we turn. And this is as far as we're going to go into this. There are various arm positions we can take and binds, but we're just going to focus on this lift up by pressing into the hand behind us, letting the breath flow. Chin is slightly tucked. Okay, well done. Let's bring ourselves back to the center. Take a slow, steady breath. Just watch the body just dissolve. Or the form, the gripped sensations of the form dissolve. Okay, we can lean away from the feet, so we've got the space to bring our legs out, extend the legs forwards, and then bring the legs to the other side, and again adjust your seat, go higher if you need to on your block, and then let's bring our hands up onto the left thigh, so it's onto the thigh on the same side as where the feet are, just in case you're going in the opposite direction. And we're toning the belly, we're lifting the chest, we're finding the breath. And just let it be an act of complete absorption. That is the element of yoga that's transformative. Okay, so we're going to turn away from the feet. So when you're ready, lift and lengthen, turn away from your feet, bring that hand behind you, press into the hand, and again, feel into any little bit of movement that you might need here. Feel into the breath here. Okay, wonderful. Let's come back to the center. Let's release. Let's lean away from the feet so we can extend the legs out in front of us. We can have a little bit of movement, whatever we need, a little pat down, a little rub down anywhere in the body. And then we're going to lay ourselves down for Shavasana. It's that time already. So let's pop a block or a blanket underneath our head if we need it. So when you lay down, if your head tips back, you definitely need support. I actually like to have a little bit of support anyway, even though my head doesn't particularly tip back, but I like a little bit of low support. And then in that support of the head, if we have the chin slightly tucked forwards, the throat opens up, so it makes breath or breathing really easeful. Arms are a little away from the body. Of course, palms facing up or resting the hands on the torso. You can take support behind your knees if you wish. And then we lay down and we close our eyes. So, of course, as always, you're welcome to move the body before you lay yourselves down. Sometimes we like to have a little hug of the knees into the chest and a little rock around. Anything you need, but then lay yourselves down. And again, we can just gather our breath. So when we gather our breath, and in a way this is a sort of paradox, we feel like we're gathering the breath, but actually the breath is gathering us. So we use the breath in this way as we tune into the breath. What the breath does, it brings all of our awareness, our attention, our energy into a single point. It gathers us. And then when we've been gathered into this single point of awareness, ekagrata, we drop in. We let go. We give our weight to the floor. We give our breath to space. And we give ourselves to this. And we can feel it, can't we? This return to stillness, this return to quietness. This recognition that the quietness and the stillness is always there, it's just beneath the movement and the noise. Okay, let's take a fuller, deeper breath or two here. And of course, you can just continue to lay on in your Shavasana as long as you wish, but you may need to come out now. My preference for Shavasana is 10 minutes normally, but in a 45-minute class, we don't really get to have the luxury of a 10-minute Shavasana. But maybe you have that time now, so you can take it if you have it. But if you need to come out, bend your knees and place your feet to the floor. Feel into any movement here. Often we need to readjust the pelvis to be comfortable in the lower back. Maybe there's little gentle movements, deeper breaths. And if you're happy to roll to both sides of your body, you can start by rolling away from the screen now and just pausing on your side there, resting. And then once again, when you're ready, you can roll over onto your other side and pause there and rest. And then coming up from your side with any movement you need, little stretch. We'll bring our hands to the heart center into Anjali Mudra, so hands at the heart in a prayer position, and we'll close our practice with a single Om. So let's take a breath in to prepare. Thank you all so very much. It's lovely to see you all. Namaste Namovaha. Reverence to you all. Thanks everyone. Have a lovely day and I'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Bye.